You know, I don't have hopes for the Texas Rangers. I don't know if this is Ranger country or Astros country. Which one is it? I have hope. I have hope for the Astros, but the Rangers are not looking good. But whether you're Atlanta Braves, whoever you are, you might ask yourself, why do they have spring training? Why do they start by working on grounders? I mean, these are professional players. They work on grounders and basic fundamental batting skills. No matter what the team, in fact, if they go to the pit and they win the pennant, I bet you they did a good job of fundamentals. So whether you are in need, a new, relatively new board member saying, I really need to know this, or you're experienced in city government, it's good to cover the fundamentals. That's what we're doing today, okay? You say, well, I think he kind of insulted our intelligence. We're professionals and we're working on grounders. We're working on basic fundamentals, throwing the ball right. That's okay. So those of you who are pros can help those of us who are new to kind of learn the fundamentals of effective board governance. What we can do at this retreat, hope to do at this retreat, is hear the vision, work on the vision, and set priorities so that the mayor and the city council can effectively govern and create a plan so the senior staff can execute it. Develop that vision, hand it to your city manager, and say, y'all work on this and drill it down. Also, and more of you said this than you imagined. We'll talk about that in a minute when we get to the advanced interview report. I'll give you that summary report, I promise. But you want this. You want to get to know each other better. Know your strengths and weaknesses and work together to be a stronger team. And put our own personal priorities aside and make the city and value the city's future well-being. Work collectively towards the goal of a good community for Odessa. So that's kind of our goal of this retreat, is to bring our individual passions and concerns to the table, but then over the retreat time, set those aside and say, I'm going to give and I'm going to take, because what we want is to work together. Board governance and leadership. Here's my first question of the day. When we think about board governance and leadership, and I'm going to just start by asking these two questions of you in a general way, but then I want to continue to narrow it down to city governance. What does it mean when we say governance? To you, council members, what does governance mean? And we're going to then go to leadership. What comes to your mind when you think of governance, the word governance?
Governing body.
A governing body. So it's not just one, it's not a governing king. I was interviewing someone this week and he's not here, not this mayor, but it's another mayor. I said, what does it mean to be the mayor? He said, I'm the king, and then he laughed. I was glad he laughed. But it is a body, right? What else? So it's a group effort in these United States, right? What else comes to your mind, anyone, about governance?
Overseeing.
An oversight.
Managing.
An oversight. So not so much in the details. When you're governing, unless you're governing two people, well, even then you have some oversight, don't you? So if it's 130,000 people, it's got to be oversight. What else?
Meeting needs.
Meeting needs. It certainly does. It's a servant need meeting organization. Good, good. There's a sense in which we're keeping our eyes on the citizens and meeting their needs. Good. What else? Anyone else?
Organization, organized society, the methods of delivery of laws and structure.
Good, good.
I mean, we relate it to governance, not just in formal government, but you look through the structures of church, social, civic groups, things of that nature. They all have some form of an organized leadership and how you basically put forward a mission statement.
Excellent.
Not only that, the visions to the group, things of that nature. It's all across every form of, we have from school, education, even business, things of that nature. You see it duplicated. And so we're always asking that question, how more effective can it be? incorporating the governance and leadership, are they intertwined? Sometimes they are,
Sometimes they are.
And they get confused.
Right.
And so, we have to be able to tell the difference between both,
Okay.
because they can get mixed. And then sometimes when you think you're doing leadership, you're actually governing.
Right.
And sometimes the governance can become too overbearing and dominant.
It's good.
And that's why we really have to go back to leadership. And I think most times, real simple. I think we've all heard this definition, or to be a good leader, you have to be more, have to know how to follow.
Right.
And so, you know, and we can make it complicated,
Right.
but that's how I would do it.
Okay, good. You've talked about them being interrelated. Let's talk about that too. First, what do we mean differently about governance to leadership? And you can keep that high in the sky. John P. Cotter, now best-selling author, now retired Harvard Business School writer and speaker, contrasts leadership and management. And leadership is the ability to facilitate change. Management deals with complexity. I'm not so much interested in that kind of definition. I'm more thinking of in governance, just like you said, Mayor. What's the difference when we think of governance versus leadership? Leadership skills or abilities are in this room. But when we're thinking about the city, how it's structured, what do we mean by leadership?
Everybody's elected by a particular part of the city. And so I think you have to look at governance first. The fact that each person here was elected by a body of people defined by an area
Exactly.
to go in and evaluate risk and reward for goals that are set for down the road.
It's
For
good.
the future, not looking backwards, but having to look it makes you look forward, not backward. You have to know the history to be able to go for it. I'm a firm believer in that. These turkeys dragging down, statues of Thomas Jefferson and all these people and Robert E. Lee and all that stuff. When you start destroying your history, you destroy your culture. So you have to know where you've been to be able to know where you're going to go. Part of each of our jobs is to represent our districts and have to understand that we're here to evaluate the risk versus the reward, what's the best way to do it for the general public. Otherwise, they don't need us.
It's good. It's good. And I hear words of governance, election, and I hear words of leadership, influencing towards the future based upon an understanding of the past. We often mix these things and just merge them together. But do you see any difference between the two, or do you see similarities between the two? What do you want to say about that? Anybody?
Spit it out, guys.
I mean, I think there's similarities to both.
Yes.
I mean, governance, you're more, I guess, in being new in the ways that you do things, you have to do things a little more different than just, I guess, being in the community and being a leader. You can kind of do and say, being in the governance position, you're in a different position than just maybe a leadership role.
Right.
Because you're governed by what you can and can't do. So that, I guess, they have you and see it.
Right, and you have governance experience, and you've already, if you don't mind me sharing, said you want to learn this type of governance experience versus what you've been in the past. So even then, leadership comes to bear with you, Councilwoman Swanner, but then governance is a little different in the city level, so you have to learn that, right? And you're going to. We're going to learn together. See how we can see that they belong together. We want good leadership and governance. But we have to learn what governance means in this context. Excellent. Good. Anybody else?
I see it being, there are the similarities. To me, governance is more what we do as a unified group. On the leadership, it's how we strive personally to contribute to that group.
There is team leadership, but almost always or often we think of it as that's a good leader. Then we put that leader in a group. Can we have good governance? Or do we have 7 leaders running all different directions? Really good, really good. And if we're all going in our own directions, we don't have good governance. Good, very good. Okay. This is SGR's model I don't want you to memorize this, it will be in the test, but I wanted to highlight for you that it's a pyramid for a reason. You could look at this in terms of the basic fundamental staff that do the work, pick up the garbage, moving up to supervisory, managerial leadership, senior staff, and the board, the council. Or you could look at it in terms of your family, that there needs to be trust, relational trust, so the family can operate well, that systems align for vacation planning, for example, and then you have a strategy. Last 2 full weeks of July, I'm going to see my oldest son in San Diego. There's the strategy. But you are here, and that's why we highlight it. You're at the tip giving direction. You're at the top saying, this is the vision. Trusting that senior staff and managerial and supervisory leadership are leading the organization well. Let me just tell you a little tip here. I love doing super training, supervisor training. I love it. I really was brought on board to do this. But they said, can you do some supervisor training? Let me just throw something in here for free. When you walk out of here today, make sure you keep in mind that the supers break your making. And don't tell them I said this. I tell them. When I do supervisor training, I say, the council can dream, and you will. The council can produce pillars and milestones, but let me tell you, respect and appreciate your supers, because they'll break you. Now that's on the QT. In other words, it kind of hits right here, and it happens or it doesn't it, Michael? And so that's their job. It's not your job to go find all the supers and say, are you doing your job? But just know, that's kind of the hard pan, Texas hard pan. Will it go down? That was kind of an extra. But we at SGO like the opinion code. Ron Hollifield, our city, our CEO and city manager par excellence, loves to bring this to bear, and so we do too. I like it, love it. It's said in history, leaders in ancient Athens and in that empire, when they were set out to be young men and young women, they took the Athenian code. It says, we will never bring disgrace on this our city by an act of dishonesty or cowardice. We will fight for the ideals and sacred things of the city, both alone, leaders, and with the many in governance. We will revere and obey the city's laws, and we will do our best to incite a like reverence and respect in others. You are bully pulpits. You are role models. You're models. And they were saying that when they took this code, this oath. We will strive unceasingly to quicken the public sense of civic duty, and we will leave the city greater and more beautiful than it was given to us. I've now done this long enough to go back to cities and seen that council has made that city greater and more beautiful. Isn't that a great code? Wouldn't that be great for all of us in sense to take that? We're going to leave Odessa greater and more beautiful than it was when we took office. I love that. So why care about board governance and leadership? To speed up the process. Oh, if you've ever had a fight in your marriage, I'm sure I'm the only one that ever had an argument in my marriage. So when I do premarital counseling, because I do weddings, I do a fight fair talk, and I graph it out for them. I said, how high, meaning how heated did the argument get, and how long did it last? Are you with me? How high and heated did the argument? How long did it last? Then I ask them this: would you like to have half the heated argument, and would you like to have half the time wasted? And they're like, yes. So I've got 4 fight fair talk, and then I get them to look at these fighting fair rules. That also applies to good governance. When you govern and lead well, you spend a lot less time arguing. The argument gets less heated. Instead of talking about personalities, you focus on the solution. Instead of going on and on, I showed up one time at a small town in Oklahoma with Michael. And they said, just sit in the back. Before we start the retreat, we're going to call meeting. And they literally talked about the weeds. They argued about the weeds. I mean, the whole time. Finally said, Dr. Willingham, your turn. They dreamed great dreams. When I walked out, they said, back to the weeds. They said, back to the weeds. How many of you would like to spend the rest of your time on council dealing with weeds? So the city the city manager said, what do I do? I said, they dreamed what? They said, great pillars. I said, just keep making your reports to them. Bring it to the attention. Well, that's what we're going to do. Instead of focusing on the weeds, let's spend more time on the dreams. Why care about governance? To eliminate ambiguity and uncertainty for the board, the staff, and all stakeholders. Pogo said, the certainty of misery is better than the misery of uncertainty. I told you it's a safe place. Ask your questions. No questions too dumb. Share your ideas. Let's just find out what we need to know. Then let's communicate that to the city clearly. To help you hold each other to higher standards. You cannot expect the staff to attain higher standards if the council doesn't attain those higher standards. The staff watches you. I mean, I've worked with supers. They can often name all of you. Not that I've worked with supers in Odessa, but I've worked with a lot of supers. I told you it's kind of something I discovered love. They know you. They watch you. They know whether you're relating in a well that models for them how they should relate. So we hold each other accountable to the highest standard. To help each individual take responsibility for their own actions. Lily Tomlin said, we're all in this alone. It's a crazy quote, Lily Tomlin. But we're all in this, but let's not forget that we are individuals, and the person I need to hold accountable today is Scott. And you hold yourself accountable and have that self-discipline of holding yourself accountable, and you're responsible for your actions. And this is one you all said in your advanced interviews. You aspire towards this, and you want this. And you have this to a degree, but you want to have it in a greater way. To disagree without being disagreeable. T.R. Ewing from Dallas said, I would just shoot you if I had time to clean up the mess. I don't know why, I just have a weird sense of humor. I thought that was funny. Let's see if this will play. There are challenges to effective teamwork and governance. Here are the major challenges we see and studies indicate. If this is hard to see, I'm sorry about that, but I'll read it for you. Absence of a clear mission and vision. We don't put those words, or I don't put those words together meaning they're the same. Mission, you wonder why most cities don't do mission statements, is because you can almost just go to any city, go to your city manager certainly, go to your mayor certainly, go to other cities and say, what's your mission? It's almost always the same. There's a lot of commonality. Mission is that stated purpose for which will never change, really, to serve the city with these functions. But vision is what we're hoping to attain this weekend, this retreat. So, if you don't have that, then everyone runs in their own directions and argues for their own agenda. Or last-minute agendas. People that come in or send you in with a last-minute agenda. Sometimes that has to happen. We have to deal with the weeds. But most of the time, it's best if we don't. It's a challenge. Board members who seek power through put-down. Board members who seek power through put-down or flattery. But they seek power through personal leadership or personal charisma. Or sometimes, we see it this way. Board members will just make it so awkward and embarrassing that the civil leaders that we are, we just say, I'd just rather not say anything. Right? Just let that go. And then what goes is the lowest common denominator. I mean, sometimes that's what we do and we shouldn't do. Is, I heard it put this way. Sometimes council members, the culture, the humidity, whatever the atmosphere of that meeting drops to the level of the least mature person. Why should that happen? Why couldn't we say, with respect, I disagree, and then take it up higher? Board members who manipulate the board and how they interact with outside stakeholders. Board members who focus on management instead of governance. What that means, to be clear with you, is telling Michael how to do his job instead of guiding him or telling Michael's staff how to do his job. You're supposed to tell Michael what you expect, and you just evaluated him and said great things about him, I've been told. But the point is, it's not your job to go past him and tell all the supervisors what to do. He'll lead those. Staff members who fail to follow through with policy decisions. So there's a problem with staff not following through. I don't see that quite often, because city managers that call us in believe in good governance. But we do see it. Board members who do not understand their basic role and responsibilities. Board members and staff members who don't understand the issues. What's really going on here? Let's find out. Let's not make a decision until we do. Staff failure to provide policy options and alternatives. Staff feeding up saying, well, these are the options. You know, there's no reason why your staff should say start with a blank screen. They should inform you, and they do inform you, so you can make better policy decisions. Fear of moving forward if there's any opposition. There's going to be opposition. Don't be afraid to move forward with a consensus, or that's a technical word, to be 100%, by doing a consensus building process and aiming for as close to a consensus as you can get. And lack of good processes. Lack of good processes. The process is important as the product. How we do it, the way in which we do it, is very important. Any questions or thoughts about these challenges or anything I've said so far? Any thoughts about these challenges or pushback? Say, I don't think that, or maybe you want to say that's one I'm glad you highlighted. Anything?
Well, on this one, I'm glad that you did highlight. Can we go to the one back?
Yes, sir.
Board members who manipulate the board and how they interact with outside. Board members who focus, no. I think it's the previous one. There was one where basically we were talking about how one acts on the board, and basically the other person says, you know what, it's through a put down or something like that. You have to put on there. Would it be the red one?
Okay. Board
Okay,
members who
yeah,
seek power,
yeah,
hard to read that one.
I can relate to that, but it goes back some time. At that time, there was an issue that nobody wanted to deal with, and that was sexually oriented businesses.
Say again?
It's sexually oriented businesses.
Okay.
They were not regulated. There was no such thing as regulation. You know, we were always considered a sin city. And how this came about was through an initiative through the public. And I remember we were having a discussion about that. And previously we had gone through something like this similar, where we highlighted everybody's personalities. And so I remember, I haven't thought about this in a long time, but when we saw that, I vividly went right back to it. And I remember that there was city council, and so I remember in the retreat, everybody gets a power play. I remember them saying it. Everybody on the council will get a power play. You get that once, or you get your way. It was kind of like a child. You know, power is, you know, this is what I want, and so you get that once. But the thing is that the danger of that is that you continue to do that, and you become that perpetual child that becomes a nuisance. Because you don't want to be that on the board. And what happens when you do that is when you assert that power, then what you're trying to happen is, and it goes back to the other one, is nobody wants to continue engaging in the discussion because now it's been lowered to the lowest down.
It has.
And so, you know, that is one thing that going back to that I've always thought was very important, that a board needs to be a board. Of course, you always have a chairperson. But it's important that you're always a body that can be able to disseminate, go back and forth, talk, without ever getting to that point.
Good.
And that goes back to the accountability. That we all have to remind ourselves, we never want to get to that point where, and I hope there's enough And it gets to a point where we get comfortable with each other, where we get to know each other, that we can have the self-control that, okay, I have to hold myself accountable for this. And that's why it's very important, and I always say this, there will be no suppression of ideas or opinions here. Feel free to express it, feel free to put everything on the table. And I said that when we were at the UTPB, I thought it was very important. I still felt that a lot of the associations held back, but that was wrong. But and that's really important. For me, I self-reflected on that.
And it's why I shared that culture code idea about building safety in there. I can already tell you want to build a safe place for people to discuss ideas, where the idea is just an idea. The person is, we're not attacking the person. It's good.
And I think that comes, on top of what Mayor said, is that it all begins with respect.
It does.
You have, coming in as elected officials, it gives you a little, I've been elected, the people have said, this is what they want. But when we get with each other, it's all about, it starts with respect, and so we've got to be willing to respect the differences in each other. We've got to recognize and respect that we won't always agree. We shouldn't always agree, but we always have to be respectful.
And I would be surprised if any one of you was elected by someone who said, please go in and disrespect.
Absolutely,
No one ran on that platform, no.
Right, because we kind of
We need to talk to your district.
We've chosen to lead,
Right.
And so it's not about us anymore.
No.
It's about the city. It's about, as you said, leaving the city a better place than when we came.
I love that.
And to me, it starts with respect. We've got to respect not only each other, but we've got to respect the employees and the people who answer to us. We've got to respect that they've been here. They kind of know what they're doing, and so we've got to respect that. And it's to our favor when we can interact with them respectfully and gain from them, some valuable information that will help us to be, we may be city council, but the people who are in this room who answer to us, they have experience. They have things, in my opinion, they're a team that can help me be better. So I can't be where I'm the council person. I've got to always, as a teacher, I always could learn something.
Isn't that fun?
And so as a council person, there's always something that they can pour into me, that makes us work better as a team.
And it's fun. Aside being semi-retired or retired, to keep learning.
Absolutely.
Keep the brain going. Very good. Respect. Good. Anybody else? So in other words, we don't want to be cavemen, and we don't want to cave into the cavemen. And another one is we don't want to give in to the articulate incompetence. 2 words that you almost have to chortle, laugh. I've been in places on boards. By the way, I served on 2 boards, so I relate to you. Served on 2 university boards, but I still was a board member, and it was just governance like we're talking about, high level vision planning. I love strategic visioning, but there'd almost always be someone who's an articulate incompetent. At the board level. At the end, you were almost in tears. That was beautiful. And you thought about it, and completely wrong. I want to cry, but that's wrong. Have you ever been in that context? What do we do when we're on tears, but we realize that's just not right? Well, we have to take that on as a challenge to deal with the cavemen and the articulate incompetence. And by the way,
in 40 years, man, that's exactly what my wife
What do you
said
get?
about me. That was beautiful, baby, but you're flat out.
no, we're not talking about governance at that family level, because I get that. But we can be that way. I'm pretty articulate, and I just don't want to be an articulate incompetence. But if I am, I want someone to lovingly, and sometimes they have to take me aside and say, really, ma'am, my wife does that, Or in the meeting to say, with all due respect, Dr. Willingham, I'd like to disagree. I just hired my son, Texas Tech graduate. Where are my Raiders in here? I see the guns up. I got 2 kids graduated from Tech. I just hired him.
You're going to have that as a topic of your.
I'm sorry. There goes my evaluation from the mayor. Anyway, I hired him to do graphic design for me. for a side business I'm doing that I'm starting. I'll talk to you, I think, about it. Anyway, I was telling him what I was dreaming of, and I was really eloquent, you know, and he said, Dad, and this is a son to a father. I don't know how you respect your father, but he respects me. And he said, Dad, I just totally disagree with that. I was paying him. I mean, I wasn't pulling in the, I'll send you the college card. I hired him. And I'm his father. He then, at that moment, was worth his weight in gold. I was glad I paid him. It is not when people go along all the time that there's good governance. It is when someone says, with all due respect, I'd like to at least ask a question because I'm not sure I agree. That's when you know you've got a good board member. And they don't say it rudely, they don't attack you, but they just want to know. So how do we deal with the cave-in and the articulate incompetence? You realize that those who destroy will always outnumber those who build because building is so much more difficult. Tomorrow you're going to say, that was great. We have these 5 pillars. And the staff's going to go, that's great. And then they're going to say, but it's more difficult. Just going sideways, maintaining, is always easier. But it's nothing to be proud of. It's easier to be critical than correct. It's easier to be critical than correct. Fear of criticism often assures failure. Fear of criticism assures failure. Edmund Burke said a representative owes the people not only his industry, hard work, but his judgment. And he or she betrays them if he or she sacrifices it for their opinion. Like my son saying, all due respect, Dad, that's exactly what I wouldn't do. Be willing to say that. So what do? We enable the mayor and the council to reach decisions with a broad consensus, within an environment of teamwork and mutual respect. Creates within the group a broad-based sense of ownership in the process and ultimately in the decision. It may start as your idea, but really good decisions at the end, you say, I don't know whose idea that was. It was our idea. You ever done that? At the beginning, you said, who came up with that? You couldn't figure it out. It was like spaghetti. It was everybody's idea. It requires philosophy and policy. Having a philosophy means knowing what you want to accomplish and why. The key word with philosophy is why. But having policies means knowing what you want to accomplish and how. Put those together, philosophy and policy. Wow. You got a good process. You got a good board. You're governing well. Healthy deliberation. So avoiding disagreements over issues that don't matter. The weeds. Let someone chop the weeds. You plow the ground. Avoid time drain with the small stuff. Disagree without being disagreeable. Deal effectively with cavemen and articulate incompetence rather than catering to them and empowering them. They may or may not come back and thank you. I've had cavemen and articulate incompetence come back and thank me. I thought they wouldn't. They came back and they never said thank you for shutting me up. I didn't shut them up. But they came back and said, thank you for bringing us together. That's what you can do.
Are you using caveman as an acronym or literally?
Just you got to be careful how you push that too far. You know, it's just like, when we think of cavemen, we think of folks that just never came out of the cave. They just kind of live in their own world, and usually a world that they have. I grew up, like I said, the second 11 years in Leon County. When I was growing up, some people had never left Leon County. Until our senior class trip when we went to Houston, they said, I've never been to Houston. These are this county full of cavemen. What's true is to them is that world.
Cave is an acronym.
Okay, tell me.
Citizens Against Racial Evil.
Well, I wanted to throw that in there.
Well, you look at it, and the thing is, apply that across the board. Okay?
I was keeping it general, but that's the way
that's
the way I wanted to use it.
Well, I chuckled at when you brought it. That's why I started laughing, because that's the first thing that I brought up. And I'll give you a prime example. How long ago has it been that Midland passed the the sports complex for the Grande. How long has that been? When they did the combination for football, high school football, and 23, 24 years ago? Okay, there's a group that's called CAPE, and it's in the acronym Citizens.
They group together?
Yeah, and so.
Oh, good, we can keep it on.
Yeah, and so the Virgin just argued against the entire project. In every argument, I mean, there was just no talking. Okay, they virtually, that's why they call it Citizens Against Virtually Everything. They still exist, but it's small.
Probably why I was cautious about using an acronym, because you actually have a group here.
Yeah.
But,
Well, not you, but admittedly.
Okay.
But I've seen that.
do you want to cave to the
Yeah,
caveman?
and that's exactly what it is. I mean, because basically what happens is the fear of that criticism, the fear of that opposition will stagnate of allowing a broader scope of ownership into any process.
Right.
And
And there's one or two or a bunch in every town.
Yeah, it just exists. There's always going to be a percentage of it. But
Excellent. And don't let the articulate incompetence drive you to make incompetent decisions out of fear. So, let's move forward to the roles and responsibilities so we can, I always wonder if this is going to fill 90 minutes, and Michael's saw my original agenda and said, maybe more time here. I always forget that this takes time, and we should give it the time it needs. There are 5 areas of responsibility for the board, and then 7 roles. Formulating the organization's vision and goals. Ensuring the financial health of the organization, because citizens will call you. Well, they'll call you first. Setting expectations for efficient and effective management and systems, ensuring quality of services, and monitoring board and organizational effectiveness in advancing the mission and making the vision a reality. Those are the responsibilities. Mission, vision, and goals, financial, health and concerns, efficient and effective management of the systems, ensuring quality and effectiveness in doing what we said we would do. The 7 roles are related to those. You are the external communicators. You establish a vital link to the community as a whole, whether it's going out to represent the city in an official capacity or it's just talking to the neighbors. You are for the city and you give the city information and give the staff benefit of the doubt, and you try to be honest but be respectful and hopeful. You assure and educate those who think the city is moving too fast, too far, too slow, or not far enough. Oftentimes, unless they're cavemen, as we talked about, you give them just that piece of information, they're like, oh, okay, we're moving at the right speed. Act as ambassadors on behalf of the city to all stakeholders. Set an example by your own personal demeanor regarding how decisions are made with positive and appropriate behaviors. This is what you signed up for. If you are a role model, you're a model citizen. And you explain unpopular decisions to critics, at least with this answer. I don't know, I promise to get back to you and get back to them. Protect the integrity of the process more than the integrity of your position. We could just almost stop right there. All we could say amen or oh no, but if we're honest, this is the hard part. I have my position, but I appreciate the process. The process is worth preserving and passing on to the next generation. When we talk about leaving the city greater, it should be more beautiful. It should be better economic development, but it must be the process of democracy is preserved. I don't see democracy exhibited or displayed anywhere as well as in the municipal government. So my hat is off to Michael and the staff, everyone all the way down the line, and my hat is off to you. The process is worth preserving. I was retired, and Mike Maurer with SGR called and said, hey, I've been in retirement like a week. He said, you want to come out of retirement? I said, what? He said, come work with us. He loves strategic visioning. I said, why? He said, come meet my heroes. I didn't know what he meant. That was almost 6 years ago. And these are my heroes. You're my heroes. Because of this process is worth preserving. Internal communicators. You work inside. You listen to the community but you also listen to the staff. You're a compass for the staff. You provide insight and direction and concern for the community and stakeholders. You work internal to the internal part of the process, not just to staff, but just to the internal idea of it, to the how it works. You listen and you communicate. You ask your questions like today and tomorrow. And you oversee the money. You oversee. You don't micromanage the money. You oversee it. Are we watching not just cash flow, but what about trends? Ask questions about trends. Ensure compliance with regulatory rules. Ensure all resources are properly accounted for and reported. Make sure expenditures are used for the purposes intended. That's accountability. Ensure that resources are properly invested and or managed. These are long-term thoughts too, not just in the moment, but for the long term. Ensure that systems are in place which build trust in the community and among stakeholders, and back to communicators, communicate that. That our processes are built upon integrity. Perhaps this should be the first role, in my opinion. Policy developer. Ensure that appropriate and effective policies are in place governing all aspects of the operation of the city. Internalize your vision and mission statement. That's one that we often miss. Why would this be on policymakers?
Which one?
Internalize your vision and mission statement. How is it that when we have a vision and mission statement that shows up in the policies? Have you ever seen that? There should be policy. Well, I say there probably will be policy changes after tomorrow. But maybe not the next meeting. But over time, that old policy that no longer really is relevant needs to be set aside. A new policy put in place. That dynamic, progressive nature of city government is just amazing and beautiful. And it challenges everyone's assumptions, yours included. These policies deal with assumptions and at the deeper level of how we believe, feel, behave. We're not afraid to ask questions, but we're willing to accept answers even if they're not what we wanted or expected. And we ensure the pursuit of the mission, not preservation of status quo. And this is maybe not the sexiest of them. Now, since I graduated from there with an IT, and I was with the, it was called Arthur Anderson and Company. I didn't shred any documents at Enron, I promise. I was in the consulting division, which is now called Accenture. By the way, if you have some money, invest in Accenture, they're doing really well. But this is sexy to me. I like data, but it may not be to you. But understand the significance of good data. By the way, a lot of y'all talked in the interviews about partnerships. Have you noticed, Mayor and others, when you work with partnerships, you have bad data and you go to work with the county or the ISD and you've got bad data, like, why would we work with the city? They don't even have good data. Good data helps with partnerships. Understand how to use it, like for example, with partnerships. Make your decisions based upon evidence. Good data. Remember that information is power. Don't misuse it, but use it. Priority assessments. Do things right and do the right things. You can't do the wrong thing well enough to make it the right thing to do. Ensure resources are effectively utilized. And truly my favorite, you are a visionary. I have a pediatric neurologist friend that I went to at college. He went on to med school and got a medical degree already, way over my head. And then he got a specialty in pediatrics and a specialty in neurology. And I get to go to lunch with him. He's retired now, so I get to go to lunch with him more often. And I'll ask Dr. McLaughlin, I said, I read this article about how the brain works. And I read it, it's from the Journal of Neurologists or whatever. He just looks at me like, well, yeah. Go back to leadership. But anyway, finally he said this to me. I said, what about this article? He said, just tell them this. God has given you a brain, a planning mechanism called your brain. He said it's an amazing tool. And everyone's got one. Ask them if they use it. I said, I can do that. instead of all these technical terms, you know every one of you's got a planning mechanism. Do you use it? You are a visionary. You know, you can do that. But the kindergartners could see the tower if they built together safely. Identify your core mission or purpose, your why. Articulate your core values. Usually those are developed best from ground up. Your core values for your city employees, we like to work from the ground up. All the staff members get to have a say in it. But you can have your core values for your council. Decide what you want to become. Define what you want to achieve. Understand where you are and determine how you're going to get where you're going. That's like duh, DOH. I mean, we know that, but do we do that? That's what we're here to do this retreat. Decide the price and level of investments necessary to get where you're going. What's your price point? How are you going to fund that? And then go after it. All right. Before I turn this over to questions, your homework for tonight, not that we'll have a chance to talk about it tomorrow, but, and I hope you don't take it while we're working together, but I'm going to go ahead and hand it out now. This is really great. I'm just going to pass it to you back if you would. Pass it to you back if you would. This is a polarity scale that Dr. Mike Mallory designed on effective governance. On the left side, you'll see characteristics of good governance in different categories. And then on the right side are challenges. And you can take this, I don't want you to take this about yourself. Can you please think about it in terms of governance for the city, for this city? And we won't have time to do it today, but please look at it. Maybe tonight you'll go over it, and that'll help us with tomorrow. But it's really an extension or expansion of everything I've said. But as we bring this good governance piece to a close, any thoughts, questions, ideas, disagreements you have with what we're talking about here? Good governance. How are we doing on time, Michael?
You've got plenty of time. Good.
We started a little bit early today.
Yeah.
We do have time. Take 10 minutes, 15 minutes and do this. Let's go ahead and do this here and talk about it. This is really good. I'll time you about 15 minutes to work on this, and then we'll talk about it.
We're rating this, one being the lesser, 10 being the greater.
Exactly. You'll see the left side, but no, one being the greater.
Yeah, one being the greater, 10 being the lesser.
Yes.
And in scale of validity.
Well, let me just read a couple and you'll see where we're going. All of them are going to work like this. Live by clear mutual vision and mission. And then on the right, it's going to be less clear vision. So in that case, if you think the city of Odessa is living by less clear mission and vision, we're not talking aspirational here. We'll be talking aspirational all day tomorrow. Right now, we're just doing an assessment, an honest assessment. Not aiming at anything personal, just do we live in the city of Odessa by clear mutual? So if you think not really, you circle 9. That's not good. And it'll tabulate that way, okay? Because if you scroll forward, you'll see that when you 15 minutes we may not get all the way done, but I think we have time to get done. If when you total this up, look at the page score interpretation, 401 to 500 at the bottom of the third to last page. You likely have neither adequate systems nor any reasonable commitment to create healthy governance culture. So the higher the number, the worse it is. All right, are you with me? Any questions? Good question. But just answer, your first answer is probably right. And this will help us to have a robust dialogue because we're doing really well on time. Ready, go. All right, let's hear from each table first. I don't know which table will go first. First, what are we doing well in terms of governance? Which table will go first? All right, Councilwoman White, let's go.
Ours went in, do you want it specific or just in general?
I want what you're thinking.
Where ours was dealing with communication with, between the council and, the staff. And that included areas such as the agendas and you know, the written agendas, those things along that line. You know, just anything that dealt with communication, we felt we rated higher.
It's good, it's good. What else do you think we're doing well with? Anything else?
Well, I mean, leadership within the city, the management. And what I mean by that is leadership sets the goals, well, basically to me, it sets direction and makes it happen. That's what leadership is. And how oftentimes when we call and communicate things that need to be done, visions, wishes, I mean, don't get into management, that's not our role. But we give direction and the city executes it. And so I think that that line of communication is excellent. It's turning that. And we put a lot of pressure and a lot of responsibility on our appointees. And they do an excellent job of being responsive. And in their leadership, they take that direction, they execute things that we want to see happen. And the thing is that that's where the government comes in, because we hold them accountable, and we need to hold ourselves accountable. And I'm more of a middle of the road person. Like usually says, you're not half gas, half full, and half empty, you just hold the glass. And the reason why is because it goes back to that second paragraph. If everybody reads it, I think there's always room for improvement. I know we strive in my personal life to always constantly improve ourselves. And you know, if we rate ourselves as being, you know, excellent, then are we saying that there's no room for improvement? I don't think that's true. But being in the middle ground gives us direction, so we're constantly always striving to do that. And so I really relate to that second paragraph. And that's where my score goes.
It's good. Anything else from this table, this group, on what are we doing well in terms of governance?
I'll add something that the mayor said, right? I appreciate the fact that he and the council recognize is that all of us, certainly appointees and staff, are in a balancing act, if you will, because we have demands from 7 different folks. At times, those demands are different in terms of what they need and requesting. The balance is for all of us is to try to be as equitable and impartial as we possibly can and get that information to everybody. Make sure that they understand the fact that we are here to support them and give them the resources they need to make decisions. But at the end of the day, these guys are the ones that have to deal with the citizens. We deal with them at our own level, but in terms of being able and having information to respond, they're the ones who get it. And so it's incumbent upon us to give them all of the information that they need so they can make the right decision and more convey information back.
It's good. Good, thank you. Thank you. Mike. This table, what are we doing well?
One of them that we really had high marks on, same thing as they have, was the communication between the staff and the council.
Can I put a check mark here?
Put a check mark on there, yeah.
Thank you.
That was one thing.
Gold star.
Especially as a newcomer, I've always been able to go into any of the city office that I need to go into, whether it be a Norma, the secretary's office, or Natasha, the city attorney. I can just go in there and the communication's there, and they've always been very helpful. And then also kind of what leadership too, as far as the agendas. I mean, we get them in a timely manner, to get it in enough time where we can go in, do our research before our meetings, and be well prepared. So that was a very hard mark for us.
That's new, preparedness. For meetings, which really moves that planning window out a little bit, and it improves the level of excellence in guidance and governance, just to have that preparedness for the meetings. Good. Any other stream? What we're doing well in governance?
One that we discussed was, I think, courage even with opposition, you know, recognizing and respecting that we won't all always think the same, vote the same, be the same, but we do all, I believe, have the courage to express those opinions, you know, without fear of opposition.
It's good. Thank you, Councilwoman Willis. Anybody else in this table?
I think they said it, that effective management,
Yeah, thank you,
You have a check mark where?
effective management systems.
Okay, that's new. It may be related, but that's right now.
Information and financial systems.
Okay? Management and information systems, did you say info?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Anything else? We're doing this well. And governance, we're doing a lot of things well, but in terms of governance, what we talked about.
One of the things that we all agreed on strongly was the board treats the city manager as the CEO. I believe that. Nobody's trying to micromanage as far as I can tell. Everything runs through Michael. I think we all agree on that, don't we?
We did, yeah.
That's why that was.
Every city manager I know wants to be micromanaged. Everyone. They just love it. Love it.
You're our man, do a job, let him do it.
What else?
Get out of the way.
Very good. Anything else from any of you? Not the cheap seats, but anything from the employee, the servant leaders? Did y'all say anything you want to share? We're doing this well.
Well, we agreed that we think the agenda packets and the information that we try to get out to council to make them prepared for
Can I put a
meetings.
check right here?
Yes, is one thing that we strive to do.
Good.
Sometimes it's not enough, but we work towards that.
Thank you, Cindy.
And I think one of the other things is we feel like we have a council that's got some city experience, and I think that's important because
It is.
and we need to be able to share that with the newer people, and they've got a lot of experience, I'm sure, with other boards and stuff, so we need to help with that.
Really helps working with a city that they're just almost all new. And while there's just this hope for tomorrow, and that's great, they're going to dream big dreams, sometimes they don't have that reality thought. And the experience of this board just says, they got a lot of experience, so they'll bring that to bear. Good. Anybody else?
I think we forgot one
Yes.
important one that we all came up with, is that each of us represent a particular district. There's different districts represented, and each council member reflects the views and the attitudes of their particular district. But also the fact that when you do that, you have to balance that with what's going on in the other districts. So that it's a balancing act between why your district elected you versus what's in the overall scheme, what's best for the city as a whole.
And that's not easy.
Except
it's-
for her, she's at large, so.
And she responded to the questions with
Yeah.
both. You kind of flip back and forth,
Yeah.
but you keep that in view. But it's not easy, but it's essential.
Yeah.
I think it's also important and a positive that we as a council, where it says devotes time for strategic vision, and I think it's really important that we felt it was important enough to take time out to try to come together and get some common visions so that we are not just going in tangents. We kind of know where we stand as a council. And so, to give us a day and a half for that, I think that's,
And we have everyone here.
and we have a.
Everyone's present, yeah.
Everyone's present, everyone's excited, and you are important, busy people. You could be doing something else. Thank you. All right. Good governance. Grow. Where could we grow? Who wants to go first? What table? Councilwoman White?
One of the things that we discussed is the respective team outside parties, that we probably need to build on our relationships with some of the other governing entities in the city, you know, such as the county, UTPD, the school board, to where we have better relationships with those prior
With those partners, with our partners like county, school districts,
Yeah,
EDC, others, is that what you're talking about? Is
Right.
partner the right word?
yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's a good
And
one,
so, to get that before we have
Put a check here.
an issue. What did you?
She, we already got an amen, so I went in and put a check on
Yeah,
What were
instead of,
checks?
instead of, kind of competing with each other, it's good to be partners.
it. In light of last year, competition really seemed counterproductive, did it
Oh,
not?
yeah.
Anything else from this table about what we could grow in? It's not that we're terrible, but we could get better. You may have had high marks, which are low marks on your report. How could we grow?
We talked so much on that first category
I
that
think
we
we did
didn't get on that one because
Well, we'll put this kind of as a parking lot, just thought. Anything else though right now you think of? What about over here? Did y'all get to growth areas?
One of the topics we discussed was the appropriate committee use. We have two meetings. So the appropriate committees.
Check mark, we discussed that also.
Y'all have two meetings, that what I heard?
Yes.
So we talked
To a
about,
point, to a point where they're ineffective.
so we talked about policies that line up with vision. If that becomes a milestone, under a major pillar to, engagement, or what sometimes is called engagement, you can put that in there. We would like to take a serious, have a study group look at what committees we need and what committees we don't. Policies follow what? Vision. It's good, I'm getting goosebumps. Sorry when I get excited about vision. What else? How can we grow? What are some things I'd like to see us do a little better with this?
I think we discussed routine and effective long-term planning. Not that we don't do it well, but that we probably should, focus on the long term and communicate that so that, there's something there for even after our term or terms. It may be tweaked a little, but some things just have to, are common among.
Right, when I stand up here and say, what about next year having a refresh? You just see dollar signs. Willingham wants you to pay him to come back. Do it yourself. Give me a call and I'll tell you how you can do it yourself. I'll give you key questions. Do it yourself, but refresh your vision every so often. And so I'm saying, I'll give it to you free, but do it. Make it a priority. And it sets a pattern. Or bring me in, I'd love to come. We don't charge a cent for refresh. But just make it a pattern to do it. What else? If I misspell things, there's no spell checker on this, I don't think. I asked Randy to get the spell checker pads. She said, they're expensive. What else? How could we grow? Okay?
No, I had something I wanted to say, but I haven't found it.
No hurry.
And I'm gonna just put it out there, because I can't find it. But we could probably grow in the area of trust. I mean, just put it out there, we gotta grow in trust in each other as a board.
That's true. It's three new members
Right.
on here, so, this is actually one of our first time we can come together and chat. Four new members, I'm sorry. And,
Councilman Shaw, you're doing all that? No Thompson. Councilman Thompson's.
yeah, four new ones and three veterans.
Okay.
So, we're coming in here and this is one of our first times we actually get together and kind of visit with each other outside of a meeting and whatnot. So that does help to build that trust that's needed so we can be able to go in there and know when we can, it makes it easier to disagree and still be disagreeable, still be agreeable.
I'm going to add a quote that one of my mentors said years ago. Unity and proximity are related. There's a relationship between unity and proximity. And so, don't feel bad. So many councils last year said, it just didn't feel as close. Don't you just love to have a Zoom meeting in the morning? There's nothing like a Zoom meeting in the morning. The only advantage is you don't know whether I'm wearing sweatpants or what. That's the only advantage. But unity is not as strengthened, in my opinion, with distance. It's strengthened with my older sister. My youngest sister lives in Florida. We just aren't as close. We just aren't. Doesn't matter how many phone calls we make. Coming together will help. Don't you agree?
It leads to, and I think that we all can agree to this to a certain extent. But what we experience as a community, as a nation, is there was just a disconnect between us all.
Built into it, yeah.
You know, because the thing is, it's not natural. And I use this as an example. And I still go through it with the staff. We as Texans, one of the things we greet each other with a handshake or a chest bump or things of that nature.
We were face to face.
Every time that, and we've seen each other, not a lot, but now it's, when I approach you, it's going to be a session of rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah. How do I shake your hand?
Every single time.
I'm not
And I'm sitting, I'm waiting, I say, okay, what are we doing today? And it changes every single time.
Exactly.
It is, so if we're feeling a disconnect within our own families, with people we have relationships long term, I think at one time, I know I had this sense that I really wanted to have a connection with this board, with everybody. And this is what I communicated with the city managers. We gotta have this retreat. I want to put everything to the retreat, but and I communicated with you. Well, you asked me, what's one of your major goals? I said, I want this board to have a sense that goes beyond the board, that we develop relationships, that we get to know each other, because we have very unique, strong personalities throughout this room, and they all have to be in this way. And we have to learn how to have them all work together towards one vision. There's properly said that city without prophetic vision will fail. And so, now that we're being able to come together and see each other in the same room, we now can start developing that connection.
Exactly.
And I think that's real critical. It's just, we as humans, we need that.
And we are humans.
And we have a better sense
Good.
of any topic that when we're all in the same room. The Zoom just doesn't allow for that.
Yeah.
We're in there, but even just the communication was sometimes you're coming in and out, and then somebody's talking, I'm singing like, okay, who said that? And so we got to the point where we realized, when somebody makes a motion, I say, you make a motion, I say, okay, who made the motion? Now you got to say, hey, I made the motion, you identify yourself. Because for normal. It's like that, I know, did you hear that? And so we would, and it just make communication.
You want to go up the incarnational scale, not down. And Zoom feels less personal to me than this right here. We didn't do hardly any council retreats because we just didn't feel like that's a good way. I mean, last year, we want to be with you when we do it. I love it. Okay, we're doing well, but let's see. Anything else about governance you want to share? I think you took a break, but can we stand up, get a quick drink in 5 minutes tops, or even 3 minutes? If we can stand up, stretch, grab a snack or a drink, and come right back, I'll switch PowerPoints. I truly enjoyed our advanced interviews. This is the summary report. When I'm done with the summary report, I'm going to have you get back in groups, and these are the 2 questions, more or less, I'm going to ask you. Where did you see agreement? Lots of agreement. So if you want to take notes so that you can talk in your group intelligently, you can always say, go back to that slide and I'll do it while you're meeting in your group. But you want to just ask yourself while I'm talking, or even stop and ask a question. Where is agreement. Almost always, council members are surprised how much agreement there really is. Secondly, you want to talk about gaps. I'll ask you to talk about gaps in agreement. That's not the same as disagreement. You may want to talk about disagreement, but gaps in agreement are exactly that, gaps. You know, you were kind of over here. It's not that you're right or wrong. I was over here. There's kind of a gap there. Well, let's talk about that. Councils that do well are willing to talk about gaps in agreement and just say, help me to understand how you got there. By the way, that's a really good question. Councilwoman Swanner, this is an example. I'm not asking this. Can you tell me how you arrived at that? And let her tell you that journey. That's a good way to get to it. So, those are the two questions I'm going to ask you to talk about in your group in just a moment. What do you hope to accomplish? I think this is in y'all's way. Let me move it back a little bit. What do we hope to accomplish? To come together, to agree to disagree, but to grow in trust and confidence. Now, you see a slash mark, it was just another comment like that I went ahead and put under this line. And you'll see a number, this is the number, of people that more or less said that. And you may say, well, I said that phrase and that's not really what I meant. Jump in there. It's okay. But I perceive, after interviewing y'all, that this 6 people said, more or less, come together. To a unity for the council. To disagree agreeable. To appreciate each other and our different views. We don't have to agree, but we should always be respectful. Unity in the midst of diversity. Come to a level of trust among the council members. Resounding agreement over this. Do you see that is, did I misunderstand what you were saying? Doesn't that sound like the same thing, or more or less? And this is akin, but I split it out because it's not so much coming together of agreement, it's let's get to know each other better. By the way, I believe those are related, and Mayor, you just mentioned that. I understand, Councilman Thompson's story now. I know his background, where he grew up and kind of his family of origin. I got to know him. I always ask that, where'd you grow up? Do you have any siblings? Your parents, are they alive? When I find out your family of origin story, I pretty much know a lot about you. Meet in person, face-to-face meeting. 2 people through that in addition to this. Let's get out of this Zoom world and let's get in face-to-face meetings if we can. Have the city work for the citizens in a united, trusting way. Now, the trusting word goes up here, but this was more of a servant leadership model. We at SGR love servant leadership. We highlighted, and Robert Greenleaf, who kind of pioneered in the 50s servant leadership by writing about it while he's at AT&T, said there's the servant, 2 types of leaders, the leader first and the servant leader. What he meant by leader first is the leader that put him or herself where? First. We come into cities and work with a city manager like Michael, who's a servant leader, who followed a leader first, someone selfish. It is a mess. This person saying, hey, we as a council want to work for the citizens. We're servant leaders. I love it. Create respectful lines of communication to get aging infrastructure up to speed. That should be a separate line. I apologize for that. That should be a different line. Create respectful lines of communication. Another way is to get the aging infrastructure up to speed, which of course no one here is surprised to hear. I'm sorry that's on the same line. We're sure to see training in council members' roles and responsibilities. Hopefully we just took a step in that direction together as you talked and shared where you think we're doing well, but we could grow. Learn the correct rules and procedures for governance. 2 folks said, we want to learn more about governance. Get an overview of the hot topics the city is facing. We'll talk about that probably before lunch. List the top 5 things that we can agree are our priorities. Stop band-aiding things. Let's fix it. Let's fix the problem, not just put a band-aid on it and have another injury next time. Let's make getting around town easier. Let's get everyone on the same page about goals and the strategic plan for the city. All right? First question. Second question. What progress do you perceive has been achieved with recent goals? We've been promoting downtown. We built a convention center. We have new restaurants coming in. We took a certificate of obligation out, but this was controversial. We've been working with the city manager towards bringing in affordable housing and housing. Sometimes it was mentioned as housing, sometimes affordable housing. Previous council started progress with infrastructure issues. We're moving in the right direction with that. Securing future plans for road repair. Future plans for additional sewer lines. Secured funds that paid for major park improvements. Someone said, I don't think as a council we've had any goals. This retreat should help with that, and hopefully it will. I don't know what the goals are at the individual level. So that's kind of the same thing, but one was just, we don't have goals, and one, I don't know what they are. And new members have different goals. Remember thinking about agreement and gaps in agreement. How's the council functioning as a team? At this point, we've only had 2 meetings. We don't have a feel for each other. This retreat is crucial. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'll be a 5. Previous council treated one another with respect. We've had a few in-person meetings with new members. Well, we've had few. We've had very few. Apparently none, right? This council? 1, 2, couple. We need to grow in our confidence with each other. We are splintered from this last campaign. We are a divided council. 2 people said that. We're 2 distinct factions in one council. We need to come together. We have tension from the election. How are our relations with good staff, with the senior staff? They could have ended with just good. Going well, helpful, fine, tremendous respect for staff, excellent, 2 people said. I know and appreciate nearly every staff member. However, this retreat could further solidify this relationship. Good, fine, excellent, well. So staff, you see that? Was it Will Rogers or Mark Twain said I could live for 2 months on a good compliment? I think it's Will Rogers, wasn't it? I don't know, you can Google it. If you got staff, you got 2 months. And then we'll be back to give you another 2 months. What are the strategic questions that need to be addressed at the goal-setting retreat? What does this council want to address in the short term and long term? Will we grow into a major metropolitan regional influence in the future? And this was not meant that we'll be 6 million, 2 million, but just that we'll function or be more like a metropolitan regional influence. How are we going to meet the needs of our citizens in areas that need large capital expenditures? Can we strengthen our relationships within the council so that we can share concerns in a respectful manner, in other words, without a lot of noise, or we could say static? Defining the role of the council. Identifying funding options and discussing these. Growth in the oil industry requires attention with the thoroughfare, or with travel, with transportation. Good. Second page on this one. So many good questions. We landed an $8 billion new plan. How will that affect infrastructure? Future planning for growth and development down the interstate. Make the loop more functional. What are we doing to fund improvements to the water treatment plant? 2 people said that, and more than 2 people mentioned it, but in this question it showed up as a strategic question. What is our plan and process to improve our road and streets? How can we improve customer service at all levels? How can we improve city and county relations? What is our main focus going to be moving forward? That's a deliverable tomorrow. Pillars, 4, 5, no more than 6. Main focus areas. What is our plan for funding and building a new sports complex? Sports of India. What are some topics you'd like to discuss at the retreat? What are our obstacles to renovating downtown? How can we make doing business with our city easier? Customer service. City and county relationships. How the council can support city staff through defined strategic goals. Opportunities from our own sports complex. 2 people mentioned that in this context. Sales tax. Water and wastewater treatment plant and the funding required. 3 people. Big deal. Division within the council. Whether or not you must go back to the citizens for funding decisions. And this was kind of stated, I summarized this in like, when does that hit, that point, you know? Where are the priorities? Where does money go when our costs come below budget? Capital improvements for infrastructure. What should council's focus be on right now? We're at a critical juncture related to debt. How much do we involve the community in the indebtedness? Bring in the public as a partner. Spending. Willingness to listen to each other with an open mind. Improving relationships. Defining council roles. The water treatment plant. Infrastructure. Funding the water treatment plant. Wastewater treatment. Staying within our budget. Revenue diversification. That'll come up again in a minute. Develop trust between council and citizens. Ensure that the bidding process is fair and equitable. What do you want this council to be known for? Aspirational. What do you want this council to be known for in the future? That we set goals in a timely manner and we accomplish them. 3 people said that. That we worked well together in a united way. 2 people. Transparency. 2 people. Citizen involvement and engagement. Concern for the citizens. Concern about the health of our city. Those may have been 2, like more health care, but it was still citizen focused. Made our city a good place to live. The city became easier to do business with, permits and such. Being forward-thinking, being proactive and not waiting until we're in a desperate situation with infrastructure. So this forward-thinking proactiveness, 3 people said, let's, so to speak, as I've said, let's get out of the weeds, let's get into the future, let's solve some problems by getting ahead of them. Very good. We spend money wisely. Integrity and trustworthiness. We became an afterthought because the citizens trust us. And I should have a parenthesis with 2 people here because I put a couple thoughts together. Sorry I didn't do that. But this idea that we're so trusted that people don't think about us. And you mentioned, Mayor, all different kinds of organizations. When it comes to governance, we could add that when the church or the social organization just takes the governing, or the city takes the governing body for granted, it can be dangerous with accountability, but for the most part it means what? We trust them. I don't worry about it. That's why I elected them. That's why I elected Mata. I trust them. They're good. Okay. What do you want to change about this city? Perception that it's a good old boy city working for a small number of stakeholders and not the city as a whole. We want it to be accountable to the citizens. We want to be a business-friendly city. More parks, sports complex, or venue, however you word that. More focus on museums and our parks. Nothing. I almost never see that. The company said, just fine the way it is. You what? The city becomes known as family-friendly. 4 people in various ways said this. We don't want to be the place, where'd y'all say? Someone said, where you live in, but you party at. Yeah, this idea was clearly conveyed. We want to be a very family-friendly city, and it was tied to a lot of things you mentioned, like museums and sports and parks, but I love that. Diversify the economy. Related but separate from these is this atmosphere for our youth. More activities for youth. More opportunities for students to interact with city government. I was doing a council retreat one time, and the Boy Scouts were sitting in the back, a whole troop. And every now and then, a council member, I think it's the mayor, turned around and said, "Hey boys, what do y'all think about that?" I was like, "Well, it's weird, but I like it." Then the boys would chime in, not the whole time, but they'd chime in, and I love it. So that's what they were saying. The council and the city come together, and they're inclusive. City and council working together. What do you want to keep the way it is? That we come together in a crisis, snowvid, COVID, whatever you call it. We stand up and help each other. The nature of the city. We want to stay friendly and accepting. 3 people said, friendly city, accepting city. When people come in, they're welcome. Vital role of the city as a whole, the staff and services continue to be supported, be a supporter and a partner. So, that these services continue, and that we're a supporter in healthcare, in ISD, in county, and colleges, that we work together with our partners, and that we're a vital role in that we work well with this, and that we continue to be a supporter of these partnerships. If we're doing the SWOT analysis, what are the strengths? We're sitting on a pool of oil. We're proactive during crises. 3 people. Employees take pride in what they do for the citizens. 2 people. We run a conservative budget. Hardworking, competent people. We have the you can do it attitude. We have a strong financial standing. City management. Another 2 months. Police and fire. Pass that on. City council. Hey, 2 months for y'all. Y'all are doing a good job. Friendly city with a great place to live. Citizens trust the city government, collaborating with other partnerships. Those are strengths. What are the weaknesses? Our growth areas. We're oil dependent. We're dependent upon oil for revenue. We could get better with customer service. The bidding process is a good old boy system. Doing business with the city. Permits and such. Lack of forward thinking. Trying to be something we're not. Not recognizing our true identity. Sorry, that should have 2 in parentheses beside it. Those are 2 different thoughts, but I didn't put the 2, I'm sorry. Run a conservative budget, so sometimes city employees don't get raises. We're so conservative that sometimes our staff doesn't get the raises they need. Our fractured relationship with our county officials. Communicating our vision and intentions. We need to grow in communicating our strengths and controlling our own narrative. 2 people said we need to do a better job of communicating our narrative. Council does not understand their role during a declared emergency. A growth area there. We talked about roles this morning. Hopefully that helped. What are the opportunities? Partnerships need to expand. We need to expand once we become open to its value. Paraphrase for you. We have opportunities to strengthen our already strong partnerships. Continue a good plan for growth through long-range planning and intentional development. Good training programs means that we can promote from within. And we almost always see that as a strength in a city. You're seeing as opportunity to work and promote from within. Growth to the south and west. Attract new retail. Develop available land. Plan for and develop workforce in the median income housing area. Become a medical hub for the region. Diversify our revenue. Have opportunities for citizen engagement and interaction for diversification. Think outside the box and take more risks. Increasing the opportunities for graduates to remain here. These are opportunities. Threats. What if our growth outpaced our infrastructure? The threat could be taking more risks. That could be a threat. Financial irresponsibility. Extreme weather. Terrorist attacks. Our dependence upon oil and gas, 3 people. Online shopping resulting in a loss of local sales tax. Lack of skilled workers. To continue to be isolated, to miss the opportunity to lead the region. What do you want the community to become or have in 10 years? I love this question. To be the leader in the entire region, fire rescue, response, security, water resources, economic stability, and diversification. To grow in a planned and organized manner in light of our constraints. Sports complex or venue, 3 people. Enhance emergency response services. Become proactive with water services. More for the arts and culture. More social opportunities. A developed downtown. Entertainment for young people outside the home. Better roads. We're tired of entertaining them in that. No, just kidding. Better roads. New businesses coming to our city. Better schools. Great council still addressing these issues. So long beyond your tenure, they're still dealing with issues. You set the pattern for that. Continuing forward-moving plan for our city. Loop 338 functions well. Water and wastewater treatment funds available for our needs. Getting out in front of that. Having the funds we need. What most needs to be added? Sports complex. Survey says 5 of you. More affordable housing. More of the arts and art education. Ability to rehab our homes and our businesses. Meaning in the areas that are more blighted or need rehabilitation. What most needs to be improved? Stability of our water resources, infrastructure 2, streets, emergency service better trained with better equipment, enhanced medical facilities, continued growth of our universities and colleges, improve our public art, quality of life, improve the downtown area, upgrades in the older districts, communication with the city and from the city. Short-term goals, start planning the sports complex. Recruit businesses to downtown. Start the process of renovating the water treatment plant. Recruit and retain more fire and police personnel. City government is providing diversity training for employees. Affordable housing. Build the sports complex. Renovate and update the water treatment plant, 3 people. Continued improvement on roads. An enhanced camera system. Establishing trust within the council, staff, citizens, and community. Midterm goals. A pathway for planning from this retreat. So this retreat begins to show a pathway in the midterm that we start seeing results. At least 1 fire station. Add employees to water, sewer, streets, fire to accommodate growth. Address the traffic flow and the roadway problems and issues. Bring in another big grocery store in District 1. More housing in underserved area. Recruit businesses into underserved areas. Attractions that draw people. Build the sports complex in 2 to 5 years. Water treatment plant renovated, 4. 2 for build the sports complex, 4 said we're well on our way in this period of time to renovating the water treatment plant. 5 years and beyond, I asked the mayor, are we looking at 7 years as long-term? He said, for right now, let's just look at 5. So we're saying 5 years and beyond is a really good measurement or benchmark for long-term goals. Now we're looking at Loop 330, it functions well. 2 people said that. Strategic planning in place for every area of our city and funding for replacement and repair of every area of our city. Secure new and improved city offices. We need better or improved office space for our cities, our workers. Improve the arts. Developing land on the interstate for retail growth. International and national travel possible from our city hub, meaning through the airport. Infrastructure, further development on water, sewer, and water lines. 3 people said, got to deal with infrastructure, but by beyond 5 years, we're really starting to get traction with this. Rebuild or add to City Hall. Working cooperatively with Midland and state for roads and highways. We're in control, and we've developed a control for our spending and debt. All right. I'm going to put you in groups 2 weeks. Are we okay with where we are? I need to move you. I'm going to move you some, but we'll just leave you where you are for right now because you don't want to move all this stuff. But I probably will move you after lunch. Agreement and gaps in agreement. I'll put those 2 questions up in just a minute. Any questions before we go to our groups about how this worked or what it means? Any comments? Okay.
Just bear in mind that we're going to talk about the areas that we find agreement, and we'll certainly work through the areas where there seems to be some additional work that we have. Is that right?
Yes, I'm not putting the questions up here. I do apologize for that. They're not on that screen. They're right here. Where do you see big gaps in agreement? And where do you see lots of agreement? I don't care which order you do, except I notice sometimes y'all don't get to the second one. So pace yourself and don't let me call time until you've got both these. They're both important, okay? Gaps of agreement is just an excellent discussion. You need to have that at your table and share it. But start with, where do you see lots of agreement? Why don't you start there, okay? Any questions about that? And I can bring the other screen up if you write these 2 questions down. Some of the group does. And then I can go back and say, go back to that screen. I want to see that. But probably you got the feel for it.
We in our group right now?
You're in your groups.
Customer service stuff.
Come on over.
She's going over there.
Hey, we don't need a lawyer yet.
They co-opted the papers we have, we don't write your.
You got your 2 months.
Welcome.
Now, let's see what others we have.
So, big gaps.
First,
Whichever one. But I think it's fun to start with agreement.
Big gaps in agreement.
So, what do we lots of agreement? I think we all agree. All agree.
Gotta work on
Wastewater treatment right behind it. Long time to touch.
That was one of my things that I told him, we're going at such a rapid pace that we're not keeping up with the rapid pace.
They should get faster.
Right, and building all these houses and putting strain on.
systems that aren't ready to hold it.
It's just gonna be worse.
Yeah, it is.
Weird. Especially down here, home area.
Is they still talk about
They haven't made
From the Jetsons?
The Jetsons, yeah.
Oh, so cool. I'll be flying around here, getting home without stopping.
That's all that's.
Yeah.
They got that. They got that.
Absolutely. Mobile hotspot?
There's the password.
That's why.
So cool, thank you, sir.
Still agree, you know, that right now, the wastewater. I think they said, I agree that, you know, something up there about more retail. I think we can bring it up businesses. You know, not just retail, but diverse. How do we do most people.
So what's going
No, I was so.
About the big house.
So I just need to just not a sports complex. Consider these on board. So I didn't know that. Mention that. That's something I'm going to go back to the public that's the same thing. When it comes to infrastructure, council, remember was put on the council to evaluate those needs and infrastructure. They have to get those things done, especially when there's a form of coverage. And they yes, they are something with all the back of the people, so they want to that's so there's certain things that you gotta say, well, wait a minute, hold it. So this was sports complex, we're going to take 4 years to fight it. You know, it's going to take tax money. The public ought to be extremely involved. I really think there's a lot of it. Where they can find all that from. He doesn't. I'm just saying, I think you have to pick a spot. So the guy spent this. Critical stuff, you got time constraints on pressure. Yes, all that, now you're 4 or 5, cheapest. Anyway,
I think
it's two great examples.
Something we don't want to risk, as he said, losing, years. And I know, frankly, some feel that is the
Just like the mayor said the other day, though, we were having this discussion. He said, or a different man, was just gonna kick down the road by the previous council. Here it is, it's our last. So we really want to take that over. Move to another, like, keep it. Way But they're always going to want to have some.
Well, I think Question is, you want boil water? That's the question. They know what's going on and they know, well, and it really dumped the relapse from the previous council. It's still worked on with Javier. I mean, so we got, a lot of times, and I hear my voice about it, but a lot of times it's been said lately that it's been our fault, the previous council. But it was previous, but exactly what the Republican knows that I
Wasn't quite enough planning.
and Javier, it's been talking about for that at least that's it's not that, something out there, the reality is that sometimes I feel that, and then it's just like against the previous council, immediate previous council. And it's not, it's something that, we were looking at then, the ones before us were looking at, so we have to just agree that for whatever reason, we got to move it. We have a problem. Maybe we decide to fix it, maybe we kick it to the next council, and I would think that that's not what we do. Stop it. Stop it. And I guess it's just the nature of the county.
That age, you're closer to doing it.
Yeah, what I've learned is that it's
That's right. But you have to put it back here. That looked like a good time. So, and then now we have it under in my mind, it kind of pushes on some security. I was on the fence about those people.
From the very beginning, I've been here to market access. I mean, from the business side, you know, the business, I don't know, it's one time,
I guess, you know, as a free council, those we have to take over, you know, everybody, all cities are not gonna agree. And we're gonna have to take a bit sometimes for the betterment of the city. And it's not always like easy. You wake up at night with that. Yeah, that's what I say, you wake up at night sometimes. What's this gonna say, what's that gonna say? But at some point, you've got to say.
I always feel very sorry for them.
So, that's when you know you're corrupted, when you're in that
You know, there's no chance.
I'm getting a manager. What's going on? What is that?
It's one of those things where the council can have, I mean,
Your discussion, I'm just trying to see how y'all are doing it.
yeah, you're gonna have that group, you know, you're ready to stay.
No, not at all. Make sure you
And you gotta just, plus the benefit.
Talk about some gaps.
When we leave our positions, you know, what's the was positive on the city.
Y'all more on gaps.
We're all,
So you're pretty equal there. They say they haven't talked about gaps. I'm gonna give them to
so you gotta split us up, we're in the group, we're losing shape in this dog.
We gotta get somebody of your deal.
Yeah, we gotta go on, and we have to kind of school them a little bit. Don't tell them we said it.
There's a gap. Yeah, talk about whatever you need to talk about.
Oh, Lord, the reporter writing, scratch that,
This is for.
To me, that would be part of this.
Yeah.
Especially when they're all together, that we we're not indebted to somebody else. We own and operate it. And since then,
It is a gap.
but I've seen it,
It is a gap.
girl that's different. And she's an all-star. It's so unfortunate. That's
And then I think, we can also agree, and I think we said it here, there is, we have to recognize that there's opportunity. I know we're growing, there's opportunity west, there's opportunity south, and we have to, we don't know whatever you're in. I think we just got to be out there and say, look, this is the fact. And being willing to say, we're willing to go. I mean, every, if you go from, come to Odessa and then stop here, and then you start in Midland going, you start in Midland, they got all sorts of stuff that you can jump off of, jump
Y'all about ready? How you doing? We're done? Okay, y'all ready? All right. Where do we see lots of agreement? Lots of agreement. Or at
Water
least-
treatment plants.
Water treatment.
Water treatment.
Oh, really? Really? Didn't know about that. Just kidding. Yeah, Can I get a check from the other group, whoever said it?
Yes,
Do we have lots of agreement about this agreement?
yes.
Okay, from the staff, we have agreement? Okay, we got it. Okay, where else do we see significant agreement?
Road, more retail.
Roads? More retail?
On that road, so you just say the general infrastructure.
Yes, we can.
On water and sewer.
We can. A lot of discussion in the interviews about infrastructure. All right, where do we see agreement?
Building council relationships.
A lot of agreement over building city council relationships. And that was perceived, I perceived that,
That trust issue, the trust factor.
I perceived the agreement on that. If I could spell, as a very positive thing for me. Everybody wanted that. What else do you see? I see agreement here.
I think we agreed that we all want to see what we can do for downtown, how we want to see it, how we want to see it move forward.
Very good revenue maker, diversification maker,
Yeah.
and a heritage. It's just a lot of wins. A lot of towns are doing it. It's just a win, for a lot of reasons. Yes, sir, Mike.
There's several mention of the loop. Loop 338.
It was mentioned.
And Mr. Sprouls commented that we have a limitation in terms of what we do indoors.
We don't have total.
Because that's textile. But the observation is also made where we do have the opportunity is how it develops around. In preserving retail corridors, that has to be important because if you allow development, for example, residential development up to the loop itself, then you've eliminated a lot of retail.
It
potential.
made the challenge even greater.
Yeah, so land usage.
Okay.
Can you add on downtown, when we think of it growing, of what's going on, that we need to act, in my opinion, family friendly? I mean, we have a lot of nightlife that's, gonna go down there, which is great. We have a great convention center and hotel. But is there any way to do that happy medium for, family? I hear that a lot,
And it's a lot of cities are doing it. I'm not just, and they see that as a place where you can walk with your family and enjoy a family experience. Whether you're antiquing or coffee shopping or whatever. Okay? Lots of agreement. Anything else? All right.
We also agreed on the making strategic planning, ongoing strategic planning.
Love it. You know what I think.
Sounds like job security.
Retirement job security. I love being retired though. Come on, guys. Okay, what else?
There seemed to be a lot of mention about a sports complex, additional parks.
I heard the word sports complex at times.
Maybe once.
The major gap was whether the word was complex or venue. That's really not a major gap.
We say complex.
I have a complex, is what you're saying? Oh,
Well, that's really good.
I'm dealing with it.
Beyond the gaps later.
Okay, gaps in agreement. Who'll go first? Gaps in agreement.
Funding.
Funding!
Difference, that
Somebody
goes
says, money.
with the funding, it goes with the differences in the districts also.
Okay, and I'm gonna put that underneath to the side, because funding's a big one, but how districts would approach, is that what you're saying? Which I think is a great opportunity for y'all to bring your district's perspective and then say, let's give and take, let's come up with something that's better. And see it as an opportunity to do great things for your city where you may not get just everything you want, but you get a better city. Okay, what else is a gap in agreement? Dick Drop.
We said,
I can always count.
we said, we had one that was under agreements and gaps, and that was business friendly. You know, there were notations in there about being business friendly and encouraging business, but what does that mean? Does that mean let them do whatever they want to, open whatever they want to? You know, limitations on all kinds of things. So we have that as an agreement and as a gap.
All right, other table, you want to push back or throw in insight? Since it's a gray area? What does that mean? Anything you,
You had sports complex.
okay?
in the
As a gap? Oh, because venue and sports complex?
No, just the sports complex is what we're calling
Okay,
it.
how is that a gap?
Whether some want it or not,
Really?
or if there's any importance for the sports complex.
Or who should,
And who should
own
fund
it?
it?
And we should fund it or own it.
Okay, is that more the gap, or is the gap, is it wanted? Or is the gap, how would it be funded?
How would it be
How would it
funded?
be funded?
I think so, but you're the ones that did the interviews. It's your city. Seemed like a lot of interest in it.
There's the same issue with the arts. The arts of the city. How's it funded?
Yeah. And, you know, kind of in that quality of life, needs versus wants versus funding.
Go ahead, say that again,
I
Councilwoman White.
said, the quality of life, needs versus wants versus funding.
Okay, thank you. Gaps in agreement, or perceived gaps in agreement, small, big, whatever. What do you think?
One of ours was, voter approval, taking things to the
What,
public.
yeah, what do we take to the public for them to vote on, or what constitutes their need for their input?
Am I right in writing, does it need a definition? Or what are you saying here? How we define it, or how we perceive it? What am I putting here?
It's just a gap in, I think, perception, for some of us as to what we should take.
That's what I was gonna put.
And what we
When-
as council should take responsibility for this file.
Okay, good. We can talk through those, that's great. All right.
One of ours that's not on there, I think that Mr. Thompson, that sometimes you take the hit for the betterment of the city, good, bad, or indifferent. It's just what's best.
How, explain to me how, the gap there. It's a good comment, I love it.
Well, I was just writing down the comments.
I think I was just kind of going on what the voter approval was. Sometimes it's it's more of a comment of that gap right there, the border. So,
Regarding
I see that.
funding.
I see that's a very good comment. When you take the hit, yeah, and that's really.
Women holding.
Hold on,
Kenny
hold on,
Rogers,
walk
I
away.
didn't see that coming.
Kenny Rogers.
come on, Kenny.
Sing it, Mary, sing it.
On another day at another retreat.
When to take the hit is a really good paraphrase for good governance. When am I going to stand up to my neighbor and say, you know, I hear you. I was there. Can I take you on our journey? Can I tell you how there's give and take? But I promise you we're doing the best for the city of Odessa. Right? And you could also add, and we're carrying Michael. We just have to carry Michael. Just kidding, Michael, just kidding. I can tease because he's awesome. So, good discussion on gaps. Keep these in mind as we move forward. These are all really preparatory exercises for tomorrow morning. So you get to sleep on it tonight. Tomorrow morning, pillars, priorities, we're going to hit them hard. We're going to get in groups, discuss them, we're going to have them. Excellent. Leading up, unless it's lunchtime, what time is it?
So we're gonna have lunch carveting here about 11:30, 11:40 or so. So we've got time.
What time? Okay, good.
We don't talk too long.
You got time. I can stop remembering my wife was here. Lori? How did you sneak in here?
She called me.
That's one of the gaps.
Oh! In other words, some of you want me to talk long. No, those have been to lots of agreement.
And part of the complex process you're working through.
It is my complex. We're done. The longest talk is the governance. It's just, yeah, I don't love that. The fun part is from here on out, it's you. Now I get to just facilitate. It's so fun. And so anyway, you get your wish. Won't be a lot of talking from me. Aspirational drivers. I don't want you to think right now so much about the reputation you have. Really, I don't want you to think hardly at all about it. I want you to think about the reputation you want to have. And remember what I said, this is an exercise that you're going to do at your table. Probably move somebody and start thinking about now. I'm probably going to move the longest tenured from each table over. So the longest tenured from each table move across. Take your stuff.
Now,
Councilwoman Willis, get all your stuff. Who's the longest tenured over here?
Either one of those.
okay, good.
Longest tenured? Dr. Sprouls, move over here.
Well, I trust you with my stuff, so I'll just leave it and take my tablet.
I wouldn't, Tom, they just get in there. I don't know.
I trust him. Remember, we're working on trust.
I'm working on sarcasm and it's not going to. You'll have to stand for it. Don't be sarcastic. Wait, we're just moving one. Hey, Tom, you get to stay.
You said long tenure.
Long tenure, yeah. We just moved mayor over here. Well, he's moved. It's done. It's done. So we're moving.
He was on the council before.
Yeah, he's been on the council before.
Oh, do I stay long
Yeah,
tenure? So we
yeah.
got that? You go back.
Oh, my goodness, just stay right there. Stay right there.
I didn't know we were counting past.
We're not, we're talking current.
Hey, Mayor, go over here. I like it. Just go over here. We'll move you. We'll move Tom next time.
I heard Deidre say they weren't talking about oldest in age.
Hey, by the way, in some cultures, elder cultures, my son lived in Bangkok and Iraq, he said, we just complimented. Age is a celebration, right?
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Now we have, former council.
Oh, yeah,
That
that's-
were just on the last council. So perhaps we
need
take
Denise.
either Mark or Denise over here and say.
Okay,
Okay,
Mark or
Denise.
Denise, somebody go.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Deidre,
well, we don't need
over
all the
there.
ladies gone.
What?
Okay.
I think it's a good, let's go with Coach.
Yeah, okay.
Let's go with Coach. That was a good call. Good call. I didn't see that. Michael, I didn't see that.
I'm not gonna take care of it.
But now I've got to watch Deidre out of my right eye instead of my left eye.
You better watch me cross-eyed.
What do we want to be known for? It is truly a priming the pump for tomorrow morning. Talk about this. What do we want to be known for? You ask the question, the council or the city? Yes.
I'm gonna make a couple more things. I also want Cindy and Philip involved. So Cindy, if you come over here, Philip, if you wouldn't mind.
Move it. I'd like to move them, move them. All right, move it, move it, move it.
All right.
We're putting the staff to work here.
Might as well keep it all in.
I'd like to move it, move it. Okay, got my grandchildren.
Yeah.
One last thing about this. One last thing about this. Reading my laptop. You want,
Norma,
Come on, y'all guys.
all right, George, a quick story, and I've told you some of this, would you let me tell a quick story? You just watching the town. I was speaking in Nacogdoches, Nowhere, Sunday after Sunday, and a bunch of young people, and the young couples came up and said, one after the other said, we won't be here next Sunday, we're going to Grapevine. I'm old enough to remember when Grapevine was more or less a younger city. It was nothing but, or primarily, a suburb of what? Dallas Fort Worth Airport. And here they are, what are you going to stand around the airport? I don't know. So I said, why? Well, we're going to, what? Great Wolf Lodge. What's the other one? Gaylord. And I'm sorry, I had a mental blip. Also, I forgot that, I believe it was our founder, Ron Hollifield, that was a part of the strategic visioning. There was a time that Grapevine said, we want to be known as a destination point. Am I saying to you that you're going to become the Grapevine of Texas? I'm not. I'm saying that years ago, a city that was known primarily to be the suburb of DFW Airport now is what they aimed at. They wanted to have the reputation of being a destination point. An illustration only to ask you this. What do you want the reputation of Odessa to be? Let's aim at it. Go.
Everybody ready now?
First thoughts?
Region. That's a
Being the hub of the region.
Okay.
Midlands is nice.
We've operated, in my opinion, we've operated in the sense that we're still and everybody else is always going to this location of being in the same city. And we all know that. And we have to change that perception. How do we do that?